I am 83 years old, and although I cannot help but notice how time has left its marks on my knees and hands, as well as in how I move in the mornings, there is one thing that has not changed as much as many might think. My face. Almost no wrinkles. And no, I'm not trying to compare myself to young women and do not aspire to look like a 40-year-old. I want to say that at my age, my skin still remains firm, radiant, and alive. In a world where the elderly often become invisible, this has become my small source of pride. A few weeks ago, when I was standing in line at the pharmacy for my usual tonic, a woman in her 30s approached me, looking intently at me. At first, I thought she wanted to pass by or urgently needed something, but she came closer and surprised me with her question. "Excuse me, but what do you do to your skin? How is it like that?" I laughed, not because it was something new to me, but because rarely does anyone ask such a direct question. I answered her the truth, as naturally as I brew myself a cup of hot tea every evening. I use face oil, nothing else, every night without exception. She blinked as if expecting me to name a famous brand or an expensive treatment, but no, it was an inexpensive cream, and no surgeries were involved. It was something simple, constant, and even modest. And today, I want to share everything with you. Not just what oil I used, but how I applied it when I opened it, and why I believe it helped not only my skin, but also how I see myself, without expecting magical formulas. I will tell you everything accessibly and humanly. But before I continue, I want to ask you a question. How old are you, and where are you looking at me from? I would be interested to know with whom I share this little secret that has supported me for so many nights. Write to me in the comments, and I will read everything. I don't remember the exact day I started to age. There was no bright moment or alarming bell, but I vividly remember the morning I looked in the mirror and noticed something new. A line, almost imperceptible between my eyebrows. It wasn't a scar or a shadow, it was a wrinkle. Gradually, the details began to multiply. The skin around the eyes had thinned, the corners of the lips that used to easily rise in a smile began to droop. It seemed that the weight of years had settled more visibly on the face than on the back, and my gaze no longer shone as it once did. He looked tired, as if the youthful energy of life had evaporated in one ordinary night without warning me. I told no one about it, because for many, aging is a silent sin. But it was not just aging. It was the feeling that I was losing myself, the feeling that a strong, determined, and capricious woman is beginning to fade. It wasn't just about the wrinkles. The worst part was what I felt because of them. I didn't strive to look young. I didn't want to turn back time. I just wanted to regain that feeling of dignity when looking at myself in the mirror. I wanted to feel comfortable in my own skin, but it turned out to be not easy. At the age of 50, you are told to accept yourself as you are. At 60, they advise you to cut your hair and choose suitable clothes. At 70, almost no one notices you. And by 80, some think you no longer care about your appearance. But that's not true. This is important because every gesture of self-care, even if it's just a drop of oil on the skin, becomes an act of resistance against oblivion. It was a winter evening in my mother's house when I first learned about castor oil. She was preparing it for my father's dry heels. I, being curious, asked what this remedy was. Castor oil was used by our grandmothers. It was used for almost everything. In this phrase, there was a sense of magic, tradition, history, wisdom. So I began to seek information, read, ask, and try. And when I decided to drop a few warm drops of this thick oil onto my palm and slowly apply it to my face, something changed, not in my skin. Not yet. Something changed within me, as if my hands said, "Here you are still here." Since then, every night I lovingly repeated this gesture. This was not an ordinary procedure, but rather a ritual of self-care. Castor oil lacked a strong aroma or exquisite packaging. It promised no miracles, but was constant and reliable. And my skin gratefully accepted what it had long been missing: attention, time, and care. Thus began my small, quiet revolution. Not in a clinic or a luxury store, but in the bathroom of my own apartment, before a weary mirror with a bottle of oil and a woman determined to look at her reflection. The first bottle was castor oil. He looked simple, with a faint scent of living nature. I didn't know how it would work, but I knew I wanted to try. That night, when everyone was asleep and silence enveloped the house, I entered the bathroom, turned on the soft light, looked in the mirror, and began. She applied a few drops to her palm, rubbed them to warm, and slowly ran her hands over her face. The sensation was dense, yet cozy, as if her skin had remembered something long forgotten. No rush, only slowness, tenderness, and breath. This was my first lesson. It's not just about the oil, but about the moment. A few days later, I decided to try other oils. Of course, not all at once. My skin needed to get to know each of them like new friends, step by step. Rosehip oil became a revelation for me. Light, penetrating, with a barely noticeable golden hue. I learned that it is rich in vitamin A and essential fatty acids, has regenerating properties. I alternated it with castor oil. One night, one oil, the next night, another. Then came argan oil, which was recommended to me. It is renowned for its high vitamin E content and is excellent for nourishing hair, but it also wonderfully moisturizes mature skin. I also tried jojoba oil. It is actually a liquid wax that perfectly mimics natural skin sebum. It helps maintain balance without clogging pores. In the end, I decided to keep two oils for myself forever: rosehip and castor oil. The first is for restoration. The second is for protection. Since then, my evening routine has remained unchanged. Every night, without exception, I wash my face with warm water and neutral soap. Non-scented, not from the store, but the simplest and most natural. After that, I gently pat my skin dry with a soft towel, not rubbing, but just softly pressing. Then I take a bottle of oil, shake it lightly, and drop 4 or 5 drops onto my palms. I rub oil in my hands, warming it with the heat of my body until the texture comes alive. And thus begins my ritual. Forehead, cheeks, chin, neck, always from bottom to top, always gently, always with deep breathing. Breathing is not a trivial matter. With each exhale, I release the past day. With each breath, I remind myself, I am here. I care for myself. I see myself. Over time, I added small massage movements, circular massages of the temples, gentle pulsations around the eyes, soft elongated movements with my index fingers from the chin to the earlobes, and finally the neck, always up, never down, as if to remind gravity that it had no power over me. Sometimes when I felt a special connection with myself, I would apply a warm compress to my face for just a minute. It helped the oil penetrate deeper and served as a small act of tenderness, closing the day. The results did not appear immediately, but they were profound. By 2 weeks, my skin stopped being dry in the mornings. By the 3rd week, I noticed a more even tone, as if my face was glowing from within. By the month, the texture had changed. It became softer, firmer, more vibrant. The existing wrinkles did not disappear, but they stopped deepening, while others, finer ones, subtly dissolved as if to say, "We are no longer needed." It seemed my skin was grateful for the delicate treatment. No expensive creams or complex formulas with hard-to-pronounce names were required. Only this moment, this gesture was needed. It was the decision to care for myself with something real. Since then, oil became not just a product, but my constant companion every night. My way of telling the world and myself that aging is not a defeat, but a choice of self every day. For many years, I believed that oil alone would do all the work. And yes, it is indeed wonderful. But I learned sometimes through trial and error that there are things you shouldn't do if you want it to work, since oil helps only if you help too. My first and main mistake, which many continue to make, is applying oil on dirty skin. It seems obvious, doesn't it? But with age, the skin doesn't renew itself as quickly. Dust, dirt, and makeup residue accumulate. And if we do not properly cleanse our face before applying oil, we only seal in impurities. Instead of moisturizing, we lock in dirt. Therefore, always cleanse your face first with warm water and gentle soap. Nothing aggressive, nothing with a sharp smell, just soap that respects your pH, does not dry out or irritate. After cleansing, gently blot the skin with a soft towel, pressing lightly rather than rubbing. Only then can oil be applied. The second common mistake is choosing the wrong oil. Not all oils are the same, and the skin's reaction to them can vary greatly. For example, I love castor oil. It's thick, nourishing, and perfect for my dry skin. However, if you have oily or combination skin, this may not always be the best choice. You might feel heaviness, stickiness, and discomfort. How can you determine which oil is most suitable for you? Here's a simple tip. For dry skin, choose thicker and nourishing oils like castor, avocado, or rosehip oil. They are perfect. If you have combination skin, opt for more balanced options like jojoba or sweet almond oil. And for oily skin, oil is not contraindicated either. Jojoba oil is perfect as it helps balance the natural production of sebum. Grapeseed oil can also be used. It is light and does not clog pores. Always do a patch test on a small area of skin. A drop of oil can be applied behind the ear or on the neck and wait for a day. Your skin will tell you if the oil is suitable. The third mistake is applying too much oil. The rule, less is more, applies here. 4 or 5 drops rubbed in the palms will be enough for the entire face and neck. There is no need to douse yourself in oil. Remember, you are nourishing the skin, not cooking food. Excess can not only lead to unnecessary expenses but also clog pores, causing an oily sheen which is especially undesirable before sleep. Moreover, it is important to consider the environment. After applying oil, try to avoid strong heat. Do not cook near a hot stove, and do not sit too close to the fireplace. Do not go out in direct sunlight without protection. Did you know that many natural oils can be photosensitizing? This means that under the influence of sunlight, they can leave stains on the skin, especially oils with citrus components or essential oils like bergamot or lemon. Therefore, it's better to apply the oil at night. And don't forget about good sunscreen, even if you're not planning to go outside, and even if the sky is overcast. Ultraviolet rays penetrate through windows, and their effect accumulates over the years. Your skin deserves protection. So if you're already using oil, don't forget about it. And finally, there are things that do not touch the skin, but still affect its condition. This is nutrition. The skin cannot be healthy if you eat poorly. Oil works from the outside, but internal condition also matters. Incorporate antioxidant-rich foods into your diet: red berries, nuts, seeds, leafy green vegetables, and fatty sea fish. And, of course, drink plenty of water. Oil moisturizes from the outside, while water hydrates from the inside. I realize that skincare is not just about aesthetics, but also health, self-respect, and attentiveness. So if you've decided to use oil, and I sincerely encourage you to do so, do it right. Your face doesn't need miracles. It needs consistency, a mindful approach, and a little love. Oil really works, but only if you do your part. Caring for your skin externally is important, but I realize that true glow comes from within. It doesn't matter how much oil you apply to your face if you are dehydrated, stressed, or have a sad diet inside. The body is wise, and the skin, being its reflection, is even wiser. It not only testifies to age, but also tells how you have lived. I began to pay attention to what I eat, not out of fashion, but out of necessity. Digestion became slower, energy decreased, and the skin lost its luster. And then I discovered something no one had told me. The skin also needs nourishment. I started simply with red berries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries. These small sweet fruits are full of antioxidants and help fight free radicals, those invisible enemies that destroy cells and accelerate aging. Then I added omega-3 found in nuts, avocados, and fatty sea fish like mackerel or tuna. Not every day, of course, but regularly. I noticed that my skin became less dry and my mind clearer. These fatty acids help maintain the cell membrane flexible and resilient, and it's obvious, it's palpable. I also highlighted the special place of vitamin C, not only because of its well-known role in strengthening the immune system, but also because it is essential for the natural production of collagen. And collagen is the protein foundation that helps the skin remain firm, elastic, and youthful. In the mornings, I drink fresh orange juice, eat slices of kiwi, a handful of papaya, or prepare a salad with red pepper. These are simple, accessible, and life-filled foods. At the same time, I began to exclude from my diet what no longer benefited me: ultra-processed foods, sugars, and fried items. I did this not because of any prohibitions, but out of love for myself. When you eat mindfully, you care for yourself. One must also mention hydration. Water is the foundation that is often forgotten. When we are young, our skin stays hydrated on its own, but after 60, it needs help. I drink not only water, but also prepare light vegetable broths, infusions of chamomile, mint, and ginger. I enjoy them warm, taking my time. Each sip feels like a gentle caress from within. Well-hydrated skin not only looks smoother, but also becomes more resilient, elastic, and better protected. But there is another aspect that almost nobody talks about: emotions. The face is a mirror of the soul. When we are sad or under stress, the skin reacts to it. I learned this from my own experience. There was a time when, despite proper nutrition and evening rituals, My face looked tired and heavy. It was not age, but a state of the heart. Stress deprived me of sleep, and with it, the glow faded. The lines on my face became more pronounced, and the dark circles under my eyes more noticeable. My skin lost its color. Then I realized that I needed to care for something greater than just my diet. I needed to take care of my inner state. I started small practices that changed everything. Meditation. It wasn't necessary to sit in a lotus position. Just deep breathing for 5 minutes before sleep was enough. Just this. Daily walks, a slow pace, observing trees, listening to birds without headphones. Just me and the world. Every evening I wrote down what I felt, what I was grateful for, what I understood. It feels like a cleansing of the soul before the day's end. Gradually, my skin responded to this. I cannot explain this from a scientific point of view, but I know for sure that I experienced it. When you are in harmony with yourself, it reflects on your face. It is not some magical formula, but rather a process, a kind of secret. It is not only about the oil, but about how you live, how you communicate with yourself, what you eat, and what you feel. Your skin perceives all of this. It remembers. If you take care of yourself from the inside, it responds to you on the outside. Every day, for a year, 12 months, over 300 nights, I repeated the same ritual. I cleansed my face, warmed oil in my hands, and carefully applied it, as if watering delicate plants. At first, it was out of curiosity, then with hope, and finally, with reverence. After that year, during an ordinary morning hour, I stopped in front of the mirror. Soft light flowed through the window, my hair was tied back, and my face was without makeup. And I saw a woman who was 83 years old. But this was no longer the woman I once was. Not because of the vanished wrinkles, but because of the expression on my face. My skin has changed. The lines of my expressions have become less deep. Those that crossed my forehead seem to have softened, as if drawn with a pencil and then gently erased, making them appear kinder. The skin tone evened out, and the small spots that appeared every year after summer disappeared. And the texture. Oh, the texture. Running my fingertips over my cheeks, I no longer felt dryness and roughness. Only incredible softness at this age. But what struck me the most was the elasticity. My cheeks, which once seemed to succumb to gravity, took on a light, lifted contour. It was neither a miracle nor the result of surgical intervention, but it was mine, and it was noticeable. Others noticed it too. One day, as I was leaving the supermarket, a woman my age looked at me closely and smiled softly. "Excuse me, what cream do you use? Your skin looks so alive." Another acquaintance even dared to ask, "Have you done something? Some laser procedure?" I just smiled and calmly replied that nothing expensive, just oil every evening, and consistency. It was funny because I wasn't looking for compliments or trying to convince anyone, but questions arose, along with a quiet confirmation that something had changed. Not just for me. One day I met with 3 school friends, all my age. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, and as we sat down to drink coffee, I couldn't help but compare our faces. I didn't do this out of a desire to elevate myself, but out of observance. I noticed that their faces looked tired, at times dull, with more pronounced lines. And I understood. Time is relentless, yes. But how you confront it is already your choice. It was not a rivalry or a desire to feel better than others. I experienced a kind of quiet pride and inner satisfaction. I did not need anyone else's approval. It was enough to see my own reflection. Of that reflection that returned the image of a woman choosing herself every night, who decided to take care of herself and found dignity in simple things like oil and routine. No, I did not become someone else, did not shed 20 years, and did not become invisible to time. But I achieved what is most valuable. I learned to feel comfortable in my own body. Believe me, this cannot be bought for any amount of money. After all, what you see in the mirror is not just skin. It is a story, it is permanence, and self-love. After a year of departure, my face was not perfect, but it became happy, and this is noticeable to the naked eye. After so many years, my routine now requires no effort. It is an act of love. I do it not out of obligation, but because I enjoy it. It helps me reconnect with myself at the end of the day. And today, I want to share with you step by step how I do this, so you can start tonight. You don't need much, just the desire, and a few minutes for yourself. Here is my simple but effective routine. First, I cleanse my face with neutral soap.